if I
Okay.
don't do it.
Thank you, Barb. Very helpful. Thanks.
Go ahead.
Okay, my mother's story. My mother put everyone at ease. She never swore, had impeccable manners, and always dressed elegantly, be it in a summer dress, a tailored suit, or a strapless ball gown. Mom was a morning person and a go-getter, cheerful, gentle, and vulnerable. Eunice May Solly was born on October 23rd, 1917, in Hampton, Middlesex, England, in a two-up, two-down terraced house. She was the youngest of 6 children. Historically, it was 1 year before the end of World War I, 1 year before women got the vote, and 1 year before the school leaving age changed from 12 to 14. My grandmother, Edith Clark, came from a wealthy family in London who disowned her when she moved in with my grandfather, Albert Hatcher. He was a plumber by day, a honky-tonk piano player by night, and a drinker. He died when Mom was 7 years old. Grandmother had a small widow's pension and went out to do housework in order to bring up her children. Even though her family sometimes went hungry, grandmother gave shelter to neighborhood women and children who sought the safety of a house without a man on Friday nights when husbands spent their pay getting drunk. Unlike her sisters, who left school at 14 to work as maids in big houses, Mom won a scholarship and left Thames Valley School at 16. She worked at painting designs on china, as a cashier for Boots the chemist, and helped care for Phyllis, her invalid sister. During World War II, Mom was drafted to work in a factory tooling company. She worked alongside the men at what had been a man's job, using a diamond drill with the diamond encased in metal, magnetized to fit it in place to be used for the cutting edge on steel. One of those men was my father, Albert Solly, a tool machinist. Dad remembers the day Mom walked into the factory, and especially her unusual, huge blue eyes. They worked 12-hour shifts, often going to and from work in the pitch dark of the blackouts during the Blitz. Air raids became commonplace. Rather than go into the shelter for a sleepless night, Mom and her mother slept downstairs. They lay under the dining room table watching the huge wall clock shake, convinced it would come crashing down. A bomb dropped 3 doors from their house in the same terrace and killed 4 people. Dad was rather shy, but finally he and Mom began to court. They took day trips to the seaside and once stumbled into a restricted area full of landmines. On Saturday nights, Dad, Mom, and her mother listened to plays on the wireless. Mom arranged dances for Canadian and American soldiers stationed around London. One photograph shows Mom punting down the River Thames with a boat full of laughing girlfriends in floppy hats and sundresses. Mom's sister Phyllis was bedridden with colitis. She secretly hoarded enough pennies to fill the gas meter. Dad and Mom found her body on the kitchen floor in front of the open oven door. Dad was so undone, he started to light a cigarette. Mom stopped him in time. Finally, the war ended, and when housing became available, they were married on January 21st, 1946. Jennifer was born on August 18th, 1947, a premature twin weighing only 3.5 pounds. Her sister Christina died within 24 hours. Gillian was born on May 25th, 1949. Mom's mother died 2 weeks after Gillian was born. Dad and Mom bought the Solly family house in East Molesey and agreed to take in Dad's mother. Mom settled into her role as a housewife. She shopped on the high street with the girls in the pram. They baked jam and treacle tarts. Mom cooked Dad's favorites, bubble and squeak, shepherd's pie, and sausage in batter. Her specialty was icing the annual Christmas cake and decorating it with a tiny Father Christmas, a robin redbreast, and a snow-dusted fir tree. Aunties and uncles visited for Christmas. The neighbors came to watch Queen Elizabeth's coronation on the only television in the street. Mom organized a coach to take neighbors up to the London Palladium for Christmas pantomimes. Jennifer and Gillian had birthday parties every year. The children loved sitting on Mom's lap while she sang each of them a lullaby. Mom looked like a film star in her strapless, floor-length gowns when she and Dad went ballroom dancing. She enrolled in embroidery classes with her sister Gladys, working for 4 years on one exquisite silk design. Mom took a cleaning job 1 day a week at a house rumored to have a secret passageway under the Thames and into Hampton Court Palace. In 1957, when they were both 40 years old, Mom and Dad had the courage to leave England for a new life in Canada, crossing the Atlantic to Montreal. Half the crew aboard ship had the Asiatic flu, and when they arrived in Winnipeg at Dad's sister Peggy's house, she had to nurse the whole family. Dad had 7 jobs in their first 7 years in Canada. The streets were not paved in gold as the Canadian government's advertisements had claimed. In Winnipeg, they rented the top floor of a house. Mom learned not to take the lid off the popcorn on the stove until it had stopped popping. The sheet she hung on the clothesline in winter froze solid. She became a cleaning lady, but quit on her first day when her employer told her to make herself a cup of tea with a used tea bag. Determined to get ahead, Mom bought a portable Smith Carollo typewriter and took typing lessons by correspondence. Headaches started to plague Mom. She spent her first Canadian Christmas in bed. The family moved 1,400 miles east to Toronto in 1958. Mom found an office job and soon became office manager. Over the years, she trained many young men who got promotions and raises while she stayed in the same job. Every penny was saved for a second mortgage. In 1959, they bought a 3-bedroom house in Oakville, 20 miles west of Toronto. Mom learned to drive. She white-knuckled the steering wheel of her Studebaker station wagon, driving on the 6-lane freeway to work every day. Finally, after 13 years of marriage, Mom had a home to call her own, no mother-in-law, no fireplaces to clean out every morning, and a modern kitchen. It was a friendly street where children rode bikes in the summers and skated on backyard ice rinks in the winter. Mom and Dad attended house parties. The girls earned money babysitting. Unlike Mom, the women on the street were mostly very young housewives with lots of children. When Joan dropped in for coffee on Saturday mornings, Mom made her welcome while watching the precious minutes tick by. Saturday mornings were for housework and laundry. Mom's headaches continued, especially on weekends when the family made plans with friends. Doctors couldn't help. Mom found a hypnotherapist who lived 200 miles away. Dad drove her there for 2 or 3 sessions, and she was cured. In 1961, that was pretty radical, and nobody outside the family knew about the treatments. Dad and Mom ran the house like clockwork. Dad kept the cars running, mowed the lawn, fixed anything that was broken, and made a recreation room in the basement. He worked overtime on Saturdays and 2 nights a week. And on those evenings, Mom cooked salads and pastas, food Dad refused to eat. We ate on TV trays in the living room, watching the television. Every Sunday at 1 o'clock sharp, Mom gathered her family at the dining room table for a roast beef dinner, complete with Yorkshire pudding. Mom and Dad read library books in bed every night and smoked cigarettes. Dad took off Mom's glasses when she fell asleep with her book in her hand. Like her mother before her, when Gillian's best friend was abandoned by her mother and needed a refuge from an alcoholic father, Mom took her in without hesitation. Mom took up yoga and practiced in the living room. She began writing long poems for every member of the family on special birthdays and anniversaries. She persuaded Dad to join the Unitarian Church because she loved its liberal teachings. After a couple of years, she decided they could not keep up with the wealthy congregation and left the church. When the girls graduated from high school, Mom and Dad moved 20 miles north to Brampton to be closer to Dad's job. Mom found a new job as an office manager. After 12 years, her boss gave everyone else a raise except her. When she challenged him, he fired her and replaced her with a younger and cheaper woman. Mom was devastated. 62 years old with no job prospects. Both daughters lived in British Columbia. Gillian taught school in Fort St. John and Jennifer was studying to be an accountant in Vancouver. In 1981, Dad and Mom packed up once more and moved 3,000 miles to Victoria on Vancouver Island. They bought a small character home. Finally, the family all lived in the same province. Mom planted flowers, cooked, baked, and worked tirelessly on exquisite needlepoint projects. She bought an organ and took a novel study course at the community college. Dad joined a chess club. Like real Canadian pioneers, Mom and Dad toured Vancouver Island and beachcombed driftwood for their fireplace. They drove north for 3 days to see Gillian in Fort St. John. Her husband Al took Mom fly fishing. They joined a bridge club but Mom was never a serious card player. She kept the friend she made there and left the cards behind. Mom and Dad toured Europe, vacationed in Hawaii, and gambled in Reno, even though Dad preferred to stay close to home and play long games of chess with a newfound friend. Knowing nothing about her mother or father's parents and siblings, Mom took up genealogy. She corresponded with a lady in England to discover if Sir John Clark Ross, the Antarctic explorer, really was her great uncle. On March 1st, 1983, Gillian had a daughter. Caitlin was her grandmother's pride and joy and one of her chief delights. When Gillian left her husband and moved to Vancouver, her mom became her rock, taking the ferry from Victoria to stay as often and for as long as she was needed. When Caitlin visited in Victoria, Mom waited at the door with open arms. And at Christmas, Mom was more excited than Caitlin. Mom started having dizzy spells and was diagnosed with Meniere's disease. She lost her confidence, walked with a cane, and couldn't attend Jennifer and Jake's wedding or Gillian's graduation ceremonies at Simon Fraser University. She was diagnosed with cancer in January 1989. After a very painful procedure, she decided to forego any more treatments. In those last few months, when she knew her time was limited, Mom found solace and comfort from a United Church minister. "I'm not a believer," she told the minister. "I am an agnostic, but I believe in love. If faith has anything to do with love, and if love is God, if God is love, then I believe in God." Mom leaned on the day-to-day love and support of Dad. She appreciated Jennifer's frequent visits and the strength that flowed from her oldest daughter. On Mother's Day, Gillian brought 6-year-old Caitlin to visit her grandmother. "I'm going to say something now that will probably make you cry," she told Gillian, who sat at her bedside. "I love you very much, and I'm so proud of what you've accomplished." Even though Mom seemed weak as a kitten, she picked Caitlin up and sat her on the bed. "I've had 6 wonderful years of being Caitlin's grandmother," Mom said. "She's brought me such happiness." Mom hugged Caitlin, and Caitlin hugged her toothless, withered grandmother back. On Mom's bedroom wall, embroidered by Gillian, were the words of a poem which expressed Mom's creed. "Listen to the salutation of the dawn. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of our existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is only a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today well lived makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day." Such is the salutation of the dawn, from the Sanskrit. Mom died in Victoria Hospice on May 23rd, 1989. In death, she looked like an angel. She was 71 years old. Historically, it was the week of Tiananmen Square. And that's the end. I have spoken.